I wasn't invited to my fiance's sister's wedding. They sent 104 invitations, even to the neighbor's cat, but forgot mine and my kids. When I asked, my fiance said, it must have been a mistake. You were supposed to get one. An hour later, her sister accidentally texted the family group chat. TBH, his kids are better off not coming. I replied, nice, and froze the $13,500 budget. Flagged every vendor, then walked into City Hall with a folder. My name is Alwyn. I'm 37, divorced, and I have 2 kids. Mason is 9, Lily is 7. I own a small company that installs and repairs air conditioning systems. 3 vans, 6 employees, 1 cramped office behind a plumbing supply store, and a phone that never stops ringing in the summer. I'm not rich, but I'm stable. I work hard. I pay my bills. I show up. That last part matters because in my fiance's family, showing up slowly became my job. My fiance's name is Marissa. We had been together almost 3 years. She knew from the start that I came with children. I told her on our 3rd date, my kids come first, I said. Always. She smiled and said, I love that about you. I believed her. Her family seemed fine at first. Loud, a little polished, a little too worried about appearances, but fine. Her mother, Diane, was the type of woman who wore pearl earrings to a backyard barbecue. Her father, Greg, said family helps family so often that it started to sound less like a belief and more like a warning. And then there was Tessa, Marissa's younger sister, the bride. Tessa's wedding had taken over the entire family for almost a year. Every dinner became a planning meeting. Every conversation became about flowers, seating charts, guest bags, signature cocktails, lighting, napkins, and whether the gold on the invitation was warm gold or cheap gold. I mostly stayed quiet. I carried boxes. I moved tables. I checked electrical outlets. I answered questions about cooling the venue. I gave advice when asked. I tried to be useful. That was my mistake. One Saturday afternoon, we were at Diane and Greg's house for what they called a casual wedding planning lunch. It was not casual. There were binders on the dining table, printed spreadsheets, ribbon samples, a giant seating chart on foam board. Tessa stood in the middle of it all, like a general before a battle. I had Mason and Lily that weekend, so they came with me. They were being good. Too good, honestly. Mason sat on the couch with his Nintendo turned low. Lily colored at the coffee table. They both knew Marissa's family could get weird around them, so they tried to disappear. That hurt more than if they had been loud. Tessa held up a stack of cream envelopes. Invitations are finally done, she said. Diane clapped. They're perfect. Tessa started handing them out. One for Aunt Carol, one for Uncle Ben, one for Marissa, one for Greg's girlfriend, one for the neighbors across the street. Diane laughed and said, we even sent one to Mr. Pickles. I looked up. Who's Mr. Pickles? Tessa grinned. The Henderson's cat. It's an inside joke. He's basically family. Everyone laughed. I gave a small smile because I thought it was harmless. Then I waited. The envelopes kept moving. People opened them. Complimented the paper. Talked about the font. I waited for mine. Nothing. I looked at Marissa's envelope. Hey, I said quietly. Is mine in there too? Marissa checked. Her face changed. Just for a second. No, she said. It must have been a mistake. You were supposed to get one. The room went quiet. Not fully quiet. Worse. That fake quiet, where everyone pretends not to hear. I looked at Tessa. She suddenly became very busy fixing a ribbon sample. I asked, and Mason and Lily? Nobody answered. Lily's crayons stopped moving. Mason looked up from the couch. I kept my voice calm. Are my kids invited? Tessa gave a small laugh. Alwyn, come on. Don't make this awkward. I stared at her. I'm asking a simple question. Diane sighed. It's just that weddings are complicated. My kids are not complicated. Greg cleared his throat. Let's not turn this into a thing. A thing. That was what my kids became in that moment. Not children, not family. A thing. Marissa touched my arm. Babe, we'll figure it out. I looked at her hand, then at my kids, then back at Tessa. Nobody said, of course they're invited. Nobody said, we're sorry. Nobody said we made a mistake. So I nodded once. Okay, I said. And that was when I knew the missing invitations were not a mistake. They just never expected me to ask in front of everyone. I wish I could say that lunch shocked me. It didn't. Not completely. Because Marissa's family had been showing me who they were for a long time. I just kept making excuses. At first, the little comments seemed small. Diane once said, "Your kids are very energetic," after Lily laughed too loudly at dinner. Greg asked Mason, "Do you see your real dad often?" Even though I was sitting right there. Tessa once told Marissa, not quietly enough, I could never do the whole stepmom thing. Too much baggage. Marissa always explained it away. My mom doesn't mean anything by it. My dad is awkward. Tessa is just honest. I wanted to believe her. Because Marissa was good with my kids when her family wasn't around. She helped Lily with school projects. She came to Mason's soccer games. She knew Lily hated peas, and Mason hated shirt tags. She remembered birthdays. She helped pack lunches. So when her family acted cold, I told myself they just needed time. Then wedding planning started. Tessa wanted a perfect wedding. Not a nice wedding. Perfect. The venue was an old City Hall event space downtown. Beautiful building. High ceilings, marble stairs, big windows. Terrible air conditioning. The manager warned them during the tour. The cooling system works, but it struggles with a full room in August. Tessa panicked. Diane looked at me immediately. "Alwyn, this is your area." I should have said, "Hire a contractor." Instead, I said, "I can take a look." That opened the door. I inspected the system. It was old, undersized, and badly maintained. The main unit would not handle 200 guests, a DJ, kitchen heat, and August weather. I explained the options: portable cooling units, a generator, temporary ducting, electrical support, permit paperwork. Tessa's face fell when I gave her the estimate. "That much? That's the realistic number." She looked at Diane. Diane looked at Marissa. Marissa looked at me. I already knew what was coming. Tessa said, "Could you maybe help us with this as a wedding gift?" I laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. "It would mean so much," she said. "And it's not like you're just a random guest." Not a random guest. That phrase stayed in my head. Apparently, I was close enough to save the wedding, but not close enough to receive an invitation. At first, I only agreed to help arrange things. Then came the deposits. The cooling vendor needed a card to hold the units. The generator company needed a deposit. The permit office needed paperwork. The electrician wanted confirmation before blocking off the date. Tessa kept saying, "We'll pay you back." Diane said, "You're basically family." Greg said, "This is what men do." "We step up," Marissa said. "Please, babe, it'll keep the peace." That one worked on me for a long time. Keep the peace. So I kept it. I put down my business card. I used my contractor discounts. I called in favors. I moved my work schedule around. By the time the invitations came out, I had $13,500 tied up in Tessa's wedding. Some refundable, some not. All under my name, my company, or my card. And while I was helping save the wedding, my kids were still being treated like visitors no one had approved. At Easter, Diane made baskets for the younger cousins. Mason and Lily did not get any. Diane said, "Oh, I didn't realize they were coming." Marissa had told her twice. At Greg's birthday dinner, the reservation was short. Tessa looked at my kids and said, "Can't they sit at the bar area?" They were 9 and 7. At a family beach weekend, all the cousins got beds. My kids were offered the pull-out sofa in the hallway. When I objected, Diane said, "They're little, they don't care." But they did care. Mason stopped asking questions in the car before we visited. Lily started asking one quiet question every time. "Are we invited to?" I hated that question. And I hated myself for not taking it seriously sooner. Marissa always stepped in just enough to make me stay. "Mom, don't be rude." "Tessa, come on." "Dad, that's not funny." Then later she'd say, "I'm trying." But trying started to feel like watching, not helping. 1 week before the invitation lunch, the cooling vendor called me at work, just confirming the final balance will be paid Friday. I wiped sweat off my forehead and frowned. Tessa should be handling that. The man paused. She told us you were the financial contact. I stood there in my shop, surrounded by tools, feeling my stomach drop. She said what? I checked my email. There it was, a forwarded message from Tessa. Alwyn is handling all vendor payments related to cooling and electrical. Please copy him on everything. Not helping. Handling, I texted Marissa, why is your sister telling vendors I'm paying for everything? She replied 20 minutes later. She probably worded it badly. Then another message. Please don't start a fight today. Mom is already stressed. I stared at my phone. Mom was stressed. Tessa was stressed. The vendors were stressed. The wedding was stressful. But nobody cared that I was carrying thousands of dollars for people who still treated my children like a problem. That night, I talked to Marissa. I asked, are Mason and Lily invited to the wedding? She froze for half a second. That half second told me everything. I think so, she said. You think so? I mean, I assumed. Ask Tessa. She's overwhelmed. Ask her. Marissa rubbed her face. Alwyn, please don't make this a test. It's not a test. It's my kids. She looked tired. I felt tired too. The next day, she told me Tessa was still working out the final guest list. That was another way of saying no. But I still went to the lunch. I still brought the kids. I still gave them one last chance to act like decent people. Then the invitations came out. 104 of them. Even one for a cat. But not one for me, not one for Mason, not one for Lily. After we got home, Lily sat at the kitchen island and picked at the corner of her coloring page. I asked, you okay, bug? She shrugged. Are we bad at weddings? I froze. What? She looked embarrassed. Like, do we mess them up? I knelt beside her chair. No, absolutely not. But they never want us at fancy stuff. I had no answer that didn't make the adults sound cruel. So I hugged her. Over her shoulder, I saw Marissa standing in the hallway. She had heard it. Her eyes filled with tears. But she didn't say, I'll fix this. She said, I'll talk to them. And right then, I understood something. Fixing it meant choosing us. Talking meant managing everyone. And I was done being managed. The message came 1 hour later. I was in the garage, putting tools away that were already put away. I just needed something to do with my hands. My phone buzzed. Family group chat. Tessa had sent a message. TBH, his kids are better off not coming. I stared at the screen. For a few seconds, I didn't breathe. Then another message appeared. Oh my God, wrong chat. Then Brandon. Delete that. Then Diane. Tessa. Then Marissa. What is wrong with you? My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I could have written a lot. I could have said everything I had swallowed for 3 years. Instead, I typed one word. Nice. That was it. Nice. The chat exploded. Tessa wrote, Alwyn, I didn't mean it like that. Diane wrote, everyone calm down. Greg wrote, this is being blown out of proportion. Brandon wrote, she's stressed. I almost laughed. Stressed. The magic word that excused everything. Marissa called me. I didn't answer. She called again. I still didn't answer. Because I knew what would happen. She would cry. She would say Tessa was wrong. She would say the wedding was next week. She would ask me not to do anything drastic. I didn't want to hear that word from people who thought excluding my children was normal. So I opened my laptop. I pulled up every vendor contract, cooling units, generator, electrical support, temporary ducting, delivery, insurance rider, city hall permits. My name was everywhere. My company name was everywhere. My card was everywhere. That had made me useful. Now it made me very calm. I called the cooling vendor first. Hey, this is Alwyn Vega from Vega Air. I need all pending charges under my card frozen. No additional payment without my written approval. The guy paused. Is the event canceled? Not by me. But I'm no longer the financial contact. Then I called the generator company. Same thing. Then the electrician. Then the delivery service. Then the insurance office. Then I emailed everyone. I am withdrawing authorization for any further charges related to the Warren Lane wedding. Any balances must be handled directly by Tessa Warren or Brandon Lane. Please confirm receipt. I attached the contracts. I highlighted the clauses. I flagged every vendor. I did not cancel the wedding. I stopped paying for it. There is a difference. At 5:46 p.m., Tessa called. I answered. She screamed. What did you do? I sat back in my chair. I stopped being the bank. You can't do that 1 week before my wedding. I can. You promised to help. I promised to help family. You were family. No, my kids aren't, remember? She went silent. Then she snapped. This is about that text? Are you serious? Yes. I said wrong, chat. That is not an apology. Oh my God, Elwin. I don't want kids at my wedding. That doesn't make me evil. My kids are not random kids. They're still kids. They have names. She scoffed. You're being sensitive. There it was. Sensitive. The word people use when they want you to accept disrespect quietly. I said, pay your own vendors, Tessa. Her voice cracked. We can't get that kind of money in a week. Then you should have been kinder to the person you expected to cover it. She hung up. 10 minutes later, Diane called. Then Greg. Then Brandon. Then Marissa. I finally answered Marissa. She was crying. Alwyn, please tell me you didn't freeze the wedding budget. I froze my money. I know Tessa was wrong. No, I said. You knew. She went quiet. I stood up. You knew we weren't really invited. I didn't know she would say that. That's not what I asked. She cried harder. I knew Tessa had concerns. About what? She thought it might be complicated. My children are not complicated. I know. No, you don't. Because if you knew, this would have been handled months ago. She whispered. I was going to fix it. You were going to talk. That's different. Alwyn, please, don't end us over my sister. I'm not ending anything over your sister. Then why are you doing this? I looked through the doorway. Mason was helping Lily open a juice box in the kitchen. Both of them were pretending not to listen. Again, I lowered my voice. I spent 3 years trying to prove my kids belonged in your family. I'm done auditioning. The next morning, I walked into City Hall with a folder. Vendor contracts, receipts, screenshots, the family chat, the email naming me as the financial contact, and our own marriage license paperwork. Marissa and I were supposed to finalize our ceremony date that week. Small wedding, no drama. That had been the plan. I went to the permits office first. I removed my company from Tessa's event paperwork. Then, I went to the clerk's office. I withdrew my signature from our marriage license application. The clerk looked at me gently. Are you sure? My phone buzzed in my pocket again. I didn't check it. I thought about Lily asking if she was bad at weddings. I thought about Mason going quiet every time we drove to Diane's house. I thought about all the times I had confused patience with weakness. Then I nodded. Yes, I said. I'm sure. By noon, everyone knew. Not because I announced it. Because vendors started calling Tessa. The cooling company needed a new card. The generator company needed direct payment. The electrician needed a new authorization. City Hall needed revised permit signatures. The insurance office needed an updated responsible party. Weddings get very real when the free money disappears. My phone lit up for hours. Diane texted first. You have gone too far, Greg wrote. A real man doesn't sabotage a wedding over hurt feelings. Brandon wrote. We need to talk like adults. Tessa wrote, you ruined my life. I stared at that one. Her life. Not her wedding. Her life. Because I refused to spend $13,500 after she insulted my children. I sent one message to the family group chat. Here are the facts. Then I uploaded screenshots. The missing invitations. The Mr. Pickles joke. Tessa's message about my kids. The vendor email saying I was the financial contact. The receipts. The total, $13,500. Then I wrote, I did not cancel anyone's wedding. I removed my money, my company, and my name from an event where my children were intentionally excluded and insulted. Do not contact me unless it is about repayment. For about 30 seconds, nobody replied. Then Diane wrote, this should have stayed private. I replied, so should Tessa's opinion of my kids. Greg wrote, you're embarrassing the family. I replied, no, I'm documenting what happened. Tessa wrote, you are cruel. I replied, my 7-year-old asked if she was bad at weddings. Nobody answered that. Funny how that worked. Some relatives messaged me privately. Aunt Paula wrote, "Children don't belong at every wedding." I replied, "Then neither does my money." A cousin wrote, "You could have handled this quietly." I replied, "They could have excluded us quietly too." But Tessa put it in the group chat. Brandon's brother wrote, "You're acting broke." I sent him the invoice total and wrote, "Then pay it." He did not reply. At work, I tried to act normal. I failed. My lead installer, Reggie, found me staring at the same supply order for 10 minutes. "You good, boss?" "Family stuff." He nodded like a man who understood. Worst kind of repair call. That made me laugh for the first time in 2 days. Life kept moving. Customers still called, units still broke, suppliers still sent the wrong parts, Mason still had soccer practice. Lily still wanted pancakes for dinner. Normal things helped. One night, Mason asked, "Are we still going to that wedding?" I turned off the stove and faced him. "Nobody." He looked relieved, then guilty for looking relieved. "Is Marissa mad?" "Marissa is sad," I said. "A lot of people are upset." Lily looked down at her plate. Because of us, that question hurt worse than any text Tessa sent. I crouched beside them. No, because grown-ups made bad choices and didn't want consequences. Mason watched me carefully. "Are we bad choices?" I put one hand on his shoulder and one on Lily's. "You two are the best choices I ever made." Lily hugged me. Mason looked away and blinked fast. I pretended not to notice. Marissa came over. 2 days later, the kids were with their mom, so it was just us. She stood in my kitchen looking exhausted. No makeup, hair tied back, eyes red. "I'm sorry," she said. I nodded. She waited for me to make it easier. I didn't. She swallowed. "I should have defended you." "Yes. And the kids." "Yes. I was scared of my family." "I know. That doesn't excuse it." "No, it doesn't." She started crying. "I love you. I believe you. Then why are you ending this?" I leaned against the counter. "Because love doesn't matter if my kids have to shrink to fit inside it." She covered her mouth. I hated seeing her hurt. But I hated more that my children had been hurt quietly for years while I tried to be understanding. She said, "Can we fix this?" "I don't know. What do you need?" I looked at the empty wall where our engagement photo used to hang. "I need to not marry into a family where my children are treated like problems. I need you to understand that keeping the peace with them meant breaking peace in my house." She nodded, crying harder. "I do understand." "Not yet," I said. "But maybe you will." The wedding still happened. Barely. They moved it from the historic City Hall venue to a cheaper hotel banquet room. No marble stairs, no custom cooling setup, no dramatic photos by the big windows. No perfect August fairy tale. Diane posted pictures. Tessa looked beautiful. Angry, but beautiful. Marissa went. That hurt. She texted me before. "I don't want to go, but if I don't, they'll blame you more." I read that message 3 times. Then I replied, "You are still making decisions based on what they'll blame me for." She didn't answer. That was an answer. After the wedding, Tessa sent me a long message. Not an apology. A speech. She said I had weaponized money. She said I had traumatized her special day. She said I would regret choosing bitterness over family. I replied with 3 things. A screenshot of her text, a screenshot of the $13,500 total, and 1 sentence. "I regret not stopping sooner." She blocked me. I felt nothing when I saw it. That surprised me. I thought I would feel angry. Or sad. Mostly, I felt free. Marissa and I officially ended the engagement 2 weeks later. There was no screaming, no dramatic breakup scene. She came to pick up the ring. It had been sitting in a small dish on my kitchen table. She held it in her hand and cried. "I really did want to marry you," she said. "I know. I wanted to be good for the kids. I know that too. I failed them." I didn't soften it. "Yes," I said. She nodded. "I'm going to therapy." "Good. I'm going to apologize to them. That matters." Then she looked at me. "Will it change anything?" I was honest. "I don't know, but the apology should not be about getting me back." She closed her eyes. "You're right." A week later, she apologized to Mason and Lily in person. No excuses, no sorry if, no blaming Tessa. She said, "I should have stood up for you. You did nothing wrong. Adults made you feel unwanted, and I let that happen. I'm sorry. Lily accepted the apology right away because Lily's heart is soft. Mason said, okay, then went back to his Legos. Kids know when words are late. I respected Marissa for doing it. But respect and marriage are not the same thing. We stayed apart, and for the first time in years, I stopped trying to make everyone comfortable. It has been 6 months. Tessa and Brandon still have not paid me back. My attorney is handling that. Diane sends polite holiday messages like nothing happened. Greg has not spoken to me since I posted the receipts. Honestly, that part has been peaceful. Marissa and I are not together. That still hurts sometimes. I loved her, but I learned something I should have learned earlier. Someone can love you and still not be safe for your family. Someone can cry and be sorry and still not be ready to stand beside you when it costs them something. And I can forgive people without giving them access to my life again. That was new for me. Before all this, I thought being a good partner meant being patient, being useful, being calm, fixing problems, paying deposits, keeping the peace. Now I understand something simple. Peace that costs my children their dignity is not peace. It is just silence. And I am done buying silence. My kids do not ask if they are invited anymore. Because now I ask first, clearly, directly. No guessing, no we'll see, no don't make it awkward. If Mason and Lily are not welcome, I do not go. It really is that simple. My company is doing well. My employees still joke that I read every contract like a paranoid man now. They are right. I don't put my card down for family promises anymore. I don't confuse being needed with being respected. And I don't let anyone call my children complicated while reaching for my wallet. Last month, Lily had a school art show. Mason and I showed up early with grocery store flowers because Lily said real artists get flowers. When she saw us, her whole face lit up. Dad, you came. I hugged her. Of course I came. And that is the point. People who love you show up. They don't make you beg for a chair. They don't forget your name. They don't treat your kids like baggage and still expect your money. Family is not a word people get to use when they need something. Family is behavior. And my boundary now is simple. If my kids are treated like outsiders, I become one too. Proudly.